I've spent the last few breaks chatting with Chicago crime writer Sam Reaves. And Sam, we were talking about a nonfiction book that you wrote with a Chicago police officer called Mob Cop.
Mob Cop, My Life of Crime in the Chicago Police Department by Fred Pacenti with Sam Reaves. Fred was my co-author. Fred was an interesting guy, a self-confessed scoundrel. He was essentially a career criminal who became a Chicago police officer because he had been told it was a license to steal.
Wow.
So Fred's the dark side of the Chicago Police Department, and I would like to emphasize that...
He's an anomaly?
I would like to emphasize that all of the other Chicago police officers with whom I've been associated were honest, hardworking cops. And it was one of them who introduced me to Fred and got the book project rolling. I thought I knew a lot about Chicago crime and corruption, but working with Fred was a real education. He had a lot of interesting things to say about outfit influence in the Chicago Police Department in the bad old days. He was William Hanhart's right-hand man on the Chicago Police Department.
Didn't he run the jewel theft ring?
Yes. Hanhart is a controversial figure in the Chicago Police Department, shall we say. In any event, it was an interesting project. I was glad to do the project, but that was definitely the dark side of the police department, and I prefer to write about and extol the virtues of the great majority of police officers who are honest and not corrupt.
But the thing about all of your characters that they all have in common is that they are dealing with one trauma or another. Whether they're coming home to trauma or they're driving a cab and have a traumatic incident happen.
Well, that's very interesting to me. How do people deal with traumatic experiences? Policemen being a tremendous example of that. Their life, their job, they often say, a policeman's job, everybody that a policeman deals with in the course of his day is having the worst day of his or her life. That's what policemen deal with every day, and policewomen, and that is very interesting to me. How do you process that? How do you deal with it? You have to become very strong. You have to become perhaps very calloused. What does it do to you? What does it do to your family life? Cops deal with this all the time, and that's interesting to me from a dramatic point of view. Just you know, writing novels about people. That's very interesting to me.
Do you start with an outline, or?
I do start with an outline. Over the course of my career, I have my outlines have grown shorter and more superficial because I have learned that once you sit down and start writing, pretty quickly the story, the internal logic of the story takes over, and the story wriggles out of your grasp. You can't pre-plan it to a great extent. So my outlines have shrunk in size from 5 to 10 pages to 1 to 3 pages, I would say. I spend less time on the outline and more time, you know, actually just sitting down and writing the thing out.
That's the good news for us. Critics have said you don't have nearly the following that you should have. I'm hoping that we open eyes to your writing today. I tell you, this man is a brilliant writer, beautiful prose. Sam Reaves, thank you so much for being with us. Again, his most recent book is the author of Cold Black Earth.